welcome to Freedom Reigns Blog Talk Radio with your host, Eternally Aware. As many are starting to know, I go by saying a human being with intrinsic rights. This week, it is my intention to bring forth and to show forth human rights and fundamental freedoms that are in operation in America. I would like my viewers, my listeners, to follow along with me. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go on into the chat room, and there you're going to see two links that have been posted from the host, Freedom Reigns. It's www.uhistory.org and www.taxfreedom.com. If you'll bring up those documentations, if you bring up those websites, that from those links, you can follow along for what I'm about to share with you guys. I'm not a lawyer. As I stated before, I'm simply a human being who has studied the laws and studied what is in operation in Canada, in America, and in other countries such as UK and Great Britain to understand my own rights and freedoms and to understand how to operate my rights and freedoms. So with that said, I would like to go on. On July 4th, 1776, there was a declaration that was made in the land of America, in the Congress of the Americas. Most of you will be familiar, hopefully, with the document that's called the Declaration of Independence. That is the declaration that was signed. Now, it's really interesting when you get into this documentation and you start to read it. You start to see the grievances that these people had, these grievances that these men had concerning Great Britain and concerning the King of Great Britain, the things that they were claiming that this king was doing to them. I start reading this declaration here. It says, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Now I'm going to stop there. Now notice, first of all, they brought up two subjects. They brought up here human events, and they brought up people. Now when you look into legal dictionaries, for example, black laws, it states that people, the definition means the citizens of a state. And when you study and look into what the definition of citizen means, it talks about the fact that a citizen is a person who owes their allegiance or who owes their oath to the country, to the political power. So when you refer to yourself as a people, you are saying that you are a citizen who is subjected to the political power that is ruling in America. Now, in Ballantyne's law, it's another law dictionary. It gives you a little bit of a better description of what a people is. It says a people means the state, the nation, or any consolidated political body. So the people means the state, the nation, or any consolidated political body. So it's very clear that when you refer to people, you're talking about a consolidated political body. It goes on further to say the subjects or inhabitants of a nation. That is what a people refers to. So when you refer to yourself as people or as a citizen, you are declaring that you are part of a political body that is in operation within the United States of America. So here, when you start to read the Declaration of Independence, it says, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people, you know what they're talking about, what they are referring to now. They're already referring to subjects or citizens that have been part of a government body, a ruling body. Now, listen to the wording. To dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. That sentence is very powerful. That sentence brings forth the operation of, if you will say, common law rights or human rights and fundamental freedoms, because it's declaring here that the power that they're using is separate, and this power is an equal station or an equal designation to which the laws of nature and of nature's gods entitle them. So they're bringing forth the fact that there is a designation, there is a way to stand or be recognized that is an equal designation, an equal statute, if you will, stature, if you will. And it goes on to subsequently say, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Now I'm going to read on just a little bit more. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, now notice that they didn't say all people, they didn't say all persons. The subject that they brought forward here was all men. It says that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now we're going to stop there. First of all, we see that there is such a thing as an equal station, an equal recognition in America. And that equal recognition falls under the laws of nature, or natures of God, if you will, human rights, fundamental freedoms that a man is entitled to. And part of these fundamental rights that are in operation, it states that they are unalienable here in America, and that among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, these are natural rights, these are human rights and freedoms that are available for you to stand on, and the object that this Declaration of Independence is declaring, the object of a government, is that a government is there to secure these rights. Notice that it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So the point being for the institution of governments was to be there to secure the rights and freedoms that were available for men and women, human beings. Not so much to create a government that would create commercial institutions and then would use their powers to help commercial institutions. These men, in July 1776, when they sought to take their freedom from Great Britain, they invoked natural law, they invoked common law, and they invoked equality of all men as their foundation, as their right to separate from the dominion of Great Britain. And they were very aware of the fact that there is such a thing back then and even now of common law, of fundamental rights, unalienable rights that belong to a human being that cannot be taken away, that cannot be removed from that human being. Now, a little bit more when you read into this Declaration of Independence, you see that one of the grievances that they had here, and one of the reasons that they wanted to break away from Great Britain and use their natural rights to break away from Great Britain, they said, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. So these men, back in 1776, they had a grievance against Great Britain, the King of Great Britain, and they said that you are imposing taxes upon us, and we don't feel that you have the right to do that. We don't give you our consent to do that. And this is one of the reasons why we want to break away from you. Isn't it funny today how we can be over 200 years into the future and this same corruption that caused these men to want to run away from Great Britain, to want to not associate to that power of that government? One of that reason was because of the fact that they imposed taxes, and here we are, this same government now is doing the exact same thing to its citizens. Here in 2012, using statutes and regulations to impose laws against them. So as one individual, as one human being, I guess you could walk into the Declaration of Independence and then say those same laws, those same reasons that justified these men to remove themselves from that political power of Great Britain, those reasons such as that all men are created equal, that we have certain unalienable rights, that they cannot be removed from us. You can claim these same rights. You can stand under these same liberties to excuse yourself as one human being from the instituted governments that are in operation right now. Now, if you go follow me into the Constitution of the United States, just going to get go through it a little bit quickly here. It starts like this. Now that you're aware of what the word people or the designation of people actually means, it says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America." Now, this Constitution of the United States of America, it applies only to people. It applies only to persons. If you take the time to sit down and do a search through this Constitution Act, you will not once find the term human being, nor will you find the term men and women within this Constitution Act. You will find the subjects people, you will find the subjects citizens, these or person. These are the subjects or players that the Constitution of the United States of America apply to. Now, you learn in the Constitution of America that the President of the United States has been given executive power over America, over the United States of America. This executive power is the ultimate power in America. He has the right to decide and to pass laws, to use his executive power against any law that is in operation in the United States. So here, just want to bring forth the fact that the Constitution of the United States of America, it is a constitution that is incorporating a company. This is what you're looking at here. When you read the Constitution of America, you are seeing the incorporation of a company on behalf of, if you will say, people, citizens, and persons. This Constitution of the United States of America does not have anything to do with the rights and freedoms of a man or of a human being. The unalienable rights that you read about in the Declaration of Independence is not being brought forth in the Constitution Act of America, in that Constitution Act. Hello, caller? 702-505-5127?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening.
How are you?
I am fine.
Who am I speaking to?
My name's Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. How's everything okay?
Everything's okay. I'm very supportive. I'm just not able to log into the blog radio today on my computer, so I'm trying to just listen in on the phone.
Oh, okay. I thought you had called because you wanted to speak.
Well, I'm more listening right now.
Are you aware of the Declaration of Independence?
No, I have not heard what you're saying just now before today.
You've never heard of the Declaration of Independence. Are you an American citizen?
Oh, yes, I have, and yes, I've heard of it. I just didn't realize the things you were just speaking about.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, these rights and freedoms, as I was just sharing with you in the Declaration, they actually come out also in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms. You see, these unalienable rights that belong to you as a human being, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I'm going to read you the universally recognized human rights that apply on all the earth. It says that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. You see, these rights and freedoms that are expressed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms were in operation for many, many years, many, many generations in America, in Canada, in other countries, because men had come to learn and had come to understand through living with one another what was proper treatment to one another, how we should treat one another. And they went about securing these rights by establishing something called common law. And that common law was the basis. It didn't create an obligation, but it was like a manual for us to teach us how we should treat one another and what each and every one of us were entitled to, because we were all equal. But as governments grew bigger and became stronger, they started to strip away our fundamental rights and freedoms and only care about or only worry about the commercial capacity of the government, which is where we are sitting now in 2012. So you as a human being in America, as I was trying to explain before, you have every right to call upon the same laws, to call upon the same operation of law that was used by these men, your founding fathers, that wrote the Declaration of Independence to invoke your inalienable rights as a human being, as a man and woman. And that's beautiful because you don't have to be under obligation to be in servitude to a political party. Because right now, your person in America is being held in servitude to the political party by them rendering you a citizen. But you don't have to stay under that designation. And these rights and freedoms are in operation in America, and they are recognized by your judicial system or by your courts. And just the fact that you have this contained in your Declaration of Independence, no judge would ever deny you these rights. You understand? You don't have to go hunting for these rights. You don't have to make some magic documentation for these rights. These rights and freedoms are clearly expressed, and America is under obligation to be aware of them. And they are. If you study the court systems and the rules and the acts that govern your court systems, you find very clearly, as I was trying to explain last week, that common law is in existence within the court systems. And it's within that common law that you have the right to declare or stand under your unalienable rights.
This is common law. Is it in writing anywhere?
Is common law in writing anywhere? Yes. Well, you can start. You can look in the Magna Carta. That was
okay.
That was something that was written by men because they had grievances towards the king also. But for you guys personally, because you're part of the United States of America, you don't have to go any farther than the Declaration of Independence, because it's clearly stated in there. And I'm just going to read over it again with you slowly. It says that the separate and equal station. Now, we got to remember, these guys are 1776. So the way they talk 200 years ago, the expressions that they used, the terminology that they used, it was a lot different than the way we speak nowadays. Some of the words that we use nowadays, they wouldn't even know what the heck they meant. You understand what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, so here it says the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. This is just trying to bring forth that you, as a woman or as a man, have the right to stand under a designation, to stand under a recognition. And that recognition, it flows out of, or it comes from, the laws of nature and the end of nature's God, if you will say. And those rights and freedoms are available for you to take recognition as. It's very beautiful when you see this in operation. Now, the problem with it is that once they declared their separation, once these men declared, and they're not the same men, but nevertheless, once it was declared separation from Great Britain, and they claimed their natural rights, they turned around after and they removed natural rights again in America. Because when you jump into the Constitution of America, what you're actually seeing there is that no expression of human rights, no expression of the man, no expression of the woman, no expression of natural law, just everything corporate legislative rules, just everything people, citizens, persons. And that's sad, because while you had one group of men in 1776 wanting to express and invoke equality for all men and all women, you have another group of men, for whatever the reason may be, coming now in the Constitution of the United States, removing those rights and freedoms, or not even taking recognition of them.
Well, that's a lot to explore and investigate.
Yes, it is. It very much is, because the whole reason they did that again is because when you are a subject or a person or a citizen, you then have obligations towards the state. You understand? They tax you, they control you, you're under allegiance to them and to their political power. So you are not only a cash amount to them, but they can rule upon you. But when you stand as a man or a woman, a human being with your unalienable rights, they have now obligations to you. There are certain obligations that they must fulfill to you. And the same thing that they did to us in Canada by changing the designation which we stand under, they did to all human beings in America through that Constitution of America. Now, the Constitution of America, it grants many rights, and I'm not here to change your political opinion or how you see things. You can stand under the Constitution if you want, and claim the rights under the Constitution, but those rights are beneath you. Those rights are only applicable to citizens. And as I say, a citizen is someone who is a subject and a servant of the political power. And apart from the Constitution, there's many rights and freedoms that are there for you to operate under.
So, are you discussing the One People's Public Trust today and how it relates to what you're saying?
Probably not, because I just want to get into the different fact that there is different characters, different subjects in the law in the United States of America. To talk about the trust and how to get access to it will probably be in future shows. But what do you know about this trust?
Well, it's just what I've been listening to and reading, but it sounds like another avenue to free us as the same one that you're talking about.
Okay, are they saying to you that you can have access to certain monetary instruments in order to fulfill human rights obligations?
At some point, but I don't think they're there yet.
Okay, well, there has to be I have to get into this more, and I've already seen documentations from the United States of America, but as far as I'm concerned, when you received your birth certificate or whatever certificate is in the United States of America, that also is your guarantee. That also is your certificate for, if you will say, treasury receipt. So there's a monetary value attached to that. Now, what happened again is they took you as the human being and they incorporated you as that person, as that citizen in America. So there had to have been some type of guarantee placed against your common law freedoms, if you will, your fundamental rights and freedoms. We know for certain that for many years America was under obligation to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So based on that obligation, before they ratified their obligation, they would have created a security instrument for you.
Yes, by my understanding, or these are just things I've heard on the internet, that the way it was set up is when we die, they cash in some value on us.
Oh, that would be.
Have you heard that?
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me, because in Canada here, our security is in perpetual existence. So even when we die, and it comes out very clearly in the bank law, which is really disgusting, it says that the constructive registered holder, or the one that holds our security, that even after we die, he has right to continue to collect money upon it indefinitely.
Wow.
So I wouldn't be surprised that that same operation of law is in existence in America, because the more I study American law, the more I see the same operations of law that are in Canada, that are in the United Kingdom, that are in Great Britain, are in operation in the United States of America. It's just that in each and every different country, they do it a little bit different, but nevertheless, the freedoms are there. You see, very clearly, as we looked at today in the Declaration of Independence, they're already admitting to the fact that there is such a designation or a recognition that you, as a human being, can stand under, you, as a man or woman, can stand under, and that these are unalienable rights, rights that cannot be removed from you. And such of them, like, for example, life and liberty. Now, if you, as a human being or as a man and woman in America, you have the right to life and the right to liberty, how can your American government, how can the ones who represent Congress or whatever, how can they claim that you must be recognized as a citizen? How can they be claimed that you must take recognition as a person? If they do so, they deny your unalienable rights. Because you, as a woman, you have the right to life and you have the right to liberty. If you take that recognition as a citizen, then you don't have liberty anymore. You've become a subject. You've become a servant to the political power. And worse than that, a person in law is not considered alive. A person is something that's been created by law, and it's been given certain rights and freedoms of a human being. It doesn't have life, a person or a citizen. So when you take that recognition, again, as citizen, you lose your unalienable right of life and liberty as that human being. But you have no obligation. Herein lies the truth. Again, if you're able to understand the unalienable rights that are in operation in America for you, there's a way to claim these rights. There's a way to claim these recognition. Now, what does that contain exactly? Like, what is the consequences, or what benefits, or what will you reap once you do that? That's another, if you will say, topic to get into. But you got to understand that all these statutes and enactments, the way that they're controlling you in America, it's through that person. It's through that citizen. If you just look in the Taxation Act of America, and if you look into the Revenue Act of America, and you check section 7343, I'm just going to read it to you. It says definition of the term person. The term person, as used in this chapter, includes an officer or employee of a corporation, or a member of an employee or partnership. So it doesn't have nothing to do, again, with human being, or a man and a woman. And the same operations of law that you see in Canada, where you start to read the statutes and the regulations, and you see that they only apply to persons, and that a person in these regulations are only a corporation, an artificial person. You see that same operation of law going on in America.
So are you saying then that if we claim citizenship, we are giving up a great deal of the rights that we were originally granted?
Very good. Very good. Not only originally granted, but also recognized in the States. Also recognized, because look at these men. From 1776, they knew about our rights and freedoms as human beings, as men and women. Even though the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came to be in only 1900, and if I remember correctly, 1945, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but in the 1900s, these men here in 1776, they were already claiming these rights and freedoms. These men already understood that no government, no society, no corporation had the right to overrule your unalienable rights. That, yeah, you could give them up, you could freely give them up, and if you did, well, that's your choice. But you see, what the government did in the early 1900s, our government, Canada and America, is they said, come be part of this, and we'll give you a lot of benefits. You understand? Come be part of this,
yes,
and the benefits that we give you will be wonderful. We'll take care of you. We'll do all this. But no, these benefits that they gave to us were corporate benefits. And the object of the government was to secure human rights or unalienable rights of men and women, not to give you benefits of a corporate nature. And it's clearly in the Declaration of Independence, it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Well, what rights are they talking about? The rights of a corporation? No. The unalienable rights of men and women, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are rights that the governments are under obligation to secure. That was their obligation. And that's exactly what happens when you take recognition as that citizen, as that person within the Constitution of America. You strip yourself of your fundamental rights as a man or a woman that are recognized in common law.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, it sort of reminds me of the old ways they would get people to vote for them in the United States a long time ago by saying 40 acres and a mule, and if you vote the way we want you to vote.
Oh, yes. It's horrible when you look back at the way they, I don't want to really use this word, but the way they manipulated the people back then. Because remember, back in the days, not many of us were educated. It's because they didn't educate us as much as we are educated now. The ability to read and comprehend was not in an abundant level like it is today. So yeah, there was politicians and these people who were writing laws and exercising the laws and controlling these laws that played upon the common people, that deceived the common people. And we
correct.
are
and now they do it in other ways, through manipulation, through fear, and false information.
Yes, that's for sure. That's right. And the way America is structured right now, your president, Mr. Obama, he has all power in the United States. Regardless of any other constitutional law or anything else you want to claim to, in the recent past number of years, they've passed executive orders that's rendered this man all-powerful in the States. And if you're part of that corporation, if you're exercising rights under the Constitution of America, he's your master. He is literally your master. And what he says goes. Now, you are not under obligation to take recognition and to exercise the rights that are under the Constitution of America. Only. You can exercise those rights if you choose. But when you see that those rights that are in there override or strip you of your rights as a human being, as a man and woman, you can then claim to your rights as a man and woman.
Do you suppose there's anyone that's tried to renounce citizenship, remain in the United States, and claim their basic rights that were originally granted or understood?
Oh, yes, that's for sure. There's also, if you go, I have a website, it's called eternallyaware.com, and there's a web page called United States of America. I put a page up, United States of America. There was recently a challenge that's been going forth in the courts of America. They want to remove the personhood from the Declaration of from the Constitution of America. They want to take away the fact that people and person and citizenship only refers to a corporate entity. And they want to try and bring back human rights and fundamental freedoms within the Constitution of America. I don't see how it's going to be possible, but nevertheless, it's nice to see that there's a group of individuals who are waking up and have understood that the Constitution of America is only for corporate. It's only for personhood. It's not for men and women.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, a lot of waking up taking place. I certainly wish to support anything that wakes us up.
Well, you see, what I'm talking, and I agree with you, there is a lot of waking up and a lot of things that are going on. What I'm sharing with you today is something that impacts you personally. You see, when you write a letter, let's say to your congressman or to your Senate, and you say to him, listen, you've given me certain rights and freedoms under the Constitution Act of America, but I understand that there's a secondary recognition, and that recognition is not as a person, not as a citizen, but as a man or a woman, as a human being. And under that designation, I have unalienable rights and unalienable freedoms that are not being fulfilled in this country right now. Can you please contact me and let me know exactly what are these rights and freedoms and what are the measures available to me when I take this recognition? Because all your corporate statutes and all your corporate laws are simply dealing with a person, a corporate employee, or if you will say a citizen. Now I'm taking recognition or designation of my inalienable rights that are available for me here in the United States of America, and I want to know what measures are there available for me to operate under these rights and freedoms. You can do that.
Very.
Yes.
Very interesting. So that website is Eternally Aware, and I look under the United States to find that information?
Yeah, eternallyaware.com, and then just look on .com, and then just look on the United States of America page, and there'll be some updates this week also. It's so there's some information there, and they'll be updating more.
Wonderful. I look forward to taking time to do that this week.
All right. It was nice having you as a caller.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Caller 313-506-00-807. 0087. Okay.
Hello?
Hello, caller. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I was just getting you onto the air. We're live on air. How's everything this week?
Okay, excellent. Everything is good. So far, so good. You know, the whole thing that got me into the whole topic of sovereignty and all of that is, you know, the one people's public trust. Yeah. There just seems to be a lot of things going on with that are kind of, I don't know, it's, I just see a lot of things going on. It seems like we're at a tipping point right now. And people are kind of they're kind of running with this because it just feels right. And I just wanted to make a comment in regards to kind of losing your freedom, you know, when you become a citizen of the United States. We'll just use that as an example. Okay. That's people aren't even given a choice to become a citizen. I mean, you're essentially born into a slavery system. It's like a prison with no bars.
Exactly.
And that alone is criminal.
Yes.
And that's, you know, it's like as you get older, you essentially find yourself in a position where you have to unlearn, you know, what's been ingrained in you.
Very much so. You're absolutely right. This is exactly the process that each one of us as individuals have to go through. Once we start to awaken to what's transpired or what's happened against us, we have to go through exactly what this gentleman has described, to unlearn what we've been taught.
Exactly. And I mean, on a bigger level, it's just the fact that we even have to petition anybody for our freedom is absurd. The fact that we're even in a position like this, I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
You're absolutely right, because I like to use that example. If we would just go and sit in the middle of the forest and understand that we're sitting here alone, who has the right to yoke anything to us? Who has the right to command us to do anything? Nobody. Really,
exactly.
Nobody has the right. The only right that makes them do it is they have bigger guns, and they try to enforce it. But when you start using operations of law that are recognized judicially and in the court systems, they can't really deny you. Once you start pushing the point against them and calling up on your freedoms, I mean, they're there. Like I showed you today, your founding fathers did it against Britain. Can I ask you a question? Have you ever looked into the word? Have you ever looked into the word sovereign?
No, I haven't actually.
You haven't, huh? Do you know that?
No.
Do you know that when you use the word sovereign in a legal manner, that a sovereign, when you declare yourself to be sovereign, it means that you have an army, and that you are able to defend.
Really?
Yes, and that you are able to defend whatever property or territory you are declaring to be sovereign, and that without an army, you cannot declare yourself to be sovereign.
Wow.
And that's within all of Black Law's dictionaries. So if you go and open up the Black Law's dictionary and you look at the word sovereign, it's going to tell you that a sovereign is one who has an army. So when you're saying that you're a sovereign citizen, there's a little problem there, because you're saying that you're still a citizen but you're sovereign. Well, where's the army?
Exactly. There's just so much to learn. I mean, and for me, I mean, it's quite obvious that no one actually has control over me. I mean, it's really by consent. I mean, we typically consent to things that we're not necessarily comfortable with just for I don't know, greater comforts. It's kind of difficult to explain. I mean, there's just like a huge, I don't know, it's just a lot going on.
You used a beautiful word there, consent, because that's exactly what's going on. And consent can be given, or they're saying it can be given, in ignorance. You see, they're saying that we can apply these laws to you because you consent. Well, hang on. In contract law, in real legal contract law, consent can only be given if you are enlightened. And that's held up in any court of law, no matter what country you belong to. Any if you will say you understand that has a judicial system going on, in contract law, if you want to say that I consented to agree to something, then it means that you've given me full enlightenment before I consented. They never did. Like you said,
no, which has never been the case.
No, of course not. When you're young, they force you to fill out a birth registration there in America also, and from that point on, you as a man or a woman, as that human being, has been incorporated into America, and they never give you a choice.
Right.
Now,
that's one thing about. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, now when you become of age and you go on a journey of your own and you start realizing what's going on and seeing what's transpiring, then you can claim. Then you can start making claims of recognition or claims against the government. But that's a journey you have to put forth. If you don't put that forth, you're going to stay in bondage. You're going to stay in slavery. You're going to stay in ignorance, and they're going to love it.
Right. I mean, it's like that's, back to, the One People's Public Trust, that was one of the things that somebody had mentioned, the fact that if they were to invalidate any of these, court documents and legal proceedings that have already taken place in regards to the trust, they would basically be invalidating their entire system.
Exactly.
So it actually does give people a leg to stand on, which is, is good.
From what I'm gathering, this trust, it applies to whom?
It applies to every man, woman, and child on the planet. Everyone is covered under the trust, as far as I understand.
Okay.
I mean, because we are the one people of the planet. So as far as I understand it, it applies to everyone.
Are they using that term, people? One people of the planet?
They're using a couple of different terms, but the one people, that's essentially, that's they are using that term.
You know what I can recommend to you?
I've heard your definitions of that term.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what? I was going to say, just go and do your own little research. Don't take my word for it, and go and find all the information that you can about what a people mean. And then once you have that as like a little foundation in your own life, you're going to realize what that designation states. Every time I see that, it's like a red flag to me, because a people means some type of incorporation. Somewhere, some way, they're asking you to give up certain rights and freedoms of your man or of your woman. It may be to your benefit. Who knows? You know, I mean, you only know until you start looking into what they're offering you. But most of the time, from what I've seen, they've stripped you of your rights.
Right. It's the whole idea behind it, I think, that I'm attracted to. I mean, again, the fact that we need to even petition anybody in order to reclaim, ourselves is ridiculous. But I think it's the whole idea of it that I'm behind. But I mean, a lot of people in the past have used that to manipulate the people into all types of situations, and I realize that as well. So it's like I say, there's just a lot going on, a lot to wrap my head around, before I actually can step off into that direction. But yeah.
Well, here's like I said to the other caller there. Nothing stops you from just writing your senator and saying, "Hey, listen, I realized that when I read the Declaration of Independence, I realized that these men were saying that we have unalienable rights as men and women, and that these unalienable rights can't be removed from me. And I realized that I've been placed into citizenship, and I'm a subject and I'm a servant of a political power. Now, what if I was to ask you that I don't want to take that recognition? I want to be simply recognized as a man. What measure is there? What operation of law is there for me as that man?" He can write you back and tell you, "I have no idea," or "Leave me alone," or whatever. But at least you bring it before them.
Right.
That's like a simple way to start saying, "Hey, listen, I realize there's two different distinctions in law here. There's a subject, a player, if you will, a man or a woman, a human being, and they have certain rights and freedoms. And that citizen, that person has certain rights and freedoms, and they're different. So I'm just asking you a simple question: what's available to me as a man or a woman? Am I under obligation, for example, to pay an income tax? Well, if you go into the income tax itself, the revenue and taxation system in America, you clearly see that the subject in there is only a person. Only a person. I give you the article of law at 7343. But you find this same operation of law, like I said, in Canada, in Great Britain, in the UK. It's just expressed a little bit differently, but these rights and are there for us to use.
Right. It's like the last caller said. I mean, we're just at a point right now where I think people are definitely waking up to what's going on. I mean, I think we've known for a long time, but now since there's a firmer movement towards something that we all seem to agree upon, which is that we need to definitely get up from under the government slavery system that we've been living up under for so long. I just think that it's definitely a good thing, and I appreciate what you're doing as well. And I just wanted to make those few points, and I'll go ahead and listen off the air.
No problem. I appreciate your call, and take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Third show so far. Hope it's going well. I'm going to go into the chat room now and see some questions that are being asked. They're talking about UCC here. It says, "I find that UCC is being blocked by the officials." And others are saying that the UCC does not work in Canada. Universal Commercial Code, that's what they're talking about. That's where they're talking about a private person and the corporate person. Wow. The UCC, I don't think, is a topic that I'm going to get into today because it's a very, very deep very, very deep topic. And there are some that are teaching this in America. In Canada, it doesn't work. It's not the same. America, you have your money, or if you will say your monetary system is for private and public use. In Canada, our monetary system is only for public use. And there's only one other person who can tap into that monetary system. That would be that human being. But apart from that, we don't have a private system going on. So UCC is not a good thing here in Canada. Now, I want to get back into this declaration here. Again, the Declaration of Independence. Because the whole object of this was that these men here, they claimed that the king of Great Britain, that he was a tyrant, okay, that he was acting wrong against the people of, if you will say, the United States of America. That those ones who had come over from Great Britain and that were under the authority still of Great Britain, that Great Britain was mistreating them. And it's just very interesting to see again, and I'm repeating myself here, but one of the reasons why is because they said for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Now, these men are claiming that, listen, we're upset at you, Great Britain, because you're imposing taxes on us without our consent. But yet now here in 2012, the same government will impose a tax upon you without your consent. And they won't, if you will say, allow you, or they won't allow you to express your fundamental freedom of not having to pay a tax, which I think is really, really ridiculous. This whole system, when I think about it, this whole system is ridiculous. People say the system, it's a fiction system, and it's not real, and it's all a fantasy and stuff. Yeah, well, you can say all that, and great, we know it's a corporation, we know it's a fiction, but guess what? It really does damage us. When they come against you with asking you to pay taxation and you don't have the money, and they threaten to take away your stuff, that's damaging. When you're driving in a vehicle and they fine you $200-300 because, I don't know, you were speeding or maybe you parked in the wrong place, that's damaging. When they take away your money off your check when you work hard week after week, those hours, and they remove it and they bring that money into their system, that's damaging to you. This whole system, even though it is fiction and it's set up as a corporate structure, in reality, it just hurts us and it damages us. And it's really a necessity, it's really an obligation for us as individuals to learn our unalienable rights and freedoms and to operate under those rights and freedoms. Because if we don't, the system will just keep having its way with us. Now, it is interesting how these callers, both of them said, well, especially the last caller, how he said he has to relearn, that he has to relearn all that he's been taught. And it goes on the same thing what I was saying last week. From when we are young, we are incorporated into the system. After our birth, they create that person, and great, it's done on paper, it's done legally, and filed away. But that doesn't stop there. The system starts working on us. How? By teaching us that there's an authority around us, and that we are under obligation to obey this authority and to submit to this authority. So when we're placed in school, in kindergarten or grade 1, and the teacher is there, we're told by our parents, this teacher has the authority and you have to listen to her or him. And when we're young, if we don't listen to the teacher, if we become rebellious, then they punish us, whatever it may be, depending on what generation you grew up. So nevertheless, the whole fact is that they're teaching us that there's an authority that has the right to rule over us and that we have no choice. And it's ingrained into us. That then when you come to understand what's actually transpiring in the law, and you start to question and say, well, who has the right actually to control me? And who has the right to tell me what I can and cannot do? You start to see that, well, hang on a second, because for many, many years, I've been walking under this, if you will say, atmosphere, under this power. And now I'm realizing that I don't have to have this, if you will say, control mechanism operated upon me. But of course, they don't want you to realize this. And that's what I don't understand. They hide it in our laws. They hide it in Canadian laws. They hide it in American laws. They hide it in the United Kingdom laws. They hide it in the Great Britain laws. But they're there for us to exercise. And then, it seems, when certain individuals want to stand and exercise their rights, it's really, really hard. It's not unattainable, but it's a battle. You have to fight. Why? It's because it's all for financial control. It's like I keep trying to express to my listeners, we are a monetary instrument for them. They collect off of us. We see how they collect off of us through taxes on our food, taxes on our gas, taxes on our clothing, taxes on our paycheck, end of the year annual taxes the IRS may claim, or the government of Canada, the revenue agency may claim, but they tax us, monetary instrument. Then, whatever security there was, security that backed your human rights and freedoms, they take that, they lay seize upon that, they throw it into the public system, and they start investing with that money and using that money for their own benefit, if you will, for the benefit of the government. So it does constantly nothing but harm us and take away from us this system when we see, apparently, this is what they tell us. Can we believe it? I don't know. But they tell us that apparently when they created governments and they decided that they were going to institute governments, it was supposed to be for the protection of our rights and freedoms. Or at least you have that authority in America. In Canada, we are in a monarchy system. We come from queens and kings and ruling and treating us as subjects and servants, and we're the common people, and her guards have control over us, and it's just a bunch of junk and a mess here in Canada. In America, you're a little bit more lucky because, I mean, it's clearly expressed there that, hey, listen, you don't have the right. You don't have the right to, if you will say, incorporate me and hold me in bondage. I have an unalienable freedom that should be in operation for me. So yeah, it's a really long learning process, and it's a great learning process because within it, you see a lot of, like the guy said, like this is a good point. The guy said, it's fearful, and there's a lot of fear out there, and it's true, there is a lot of fear. But this fear that is in operation against us, it's only because we don't understand our rights, really. And I don't want to make it sound like it's so simple, like, oh, you mean once I understand my rights, I'm not going to be afraid of anything? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to express is the fact that the way they control you, like when they make a demand against you, give you, for example, taxation. When they send paperwork to you and say, you owe us $10,000 for taxation, I'm the IRS, you better come and pay, or we're going to do some bad things to you. That creates fear against you. And because you don't understand that there's rights and freedoms available to you as a human being, as a man and woman, that lift you up out of that citizenship, that lift you up out of that person, away from those laws, then you're fearful when that demand comes. You're fearful when that battle comes. But if through study and relearning, you understand and you see your rights and freedoms, when someone comes in your life to attack you in that way, and I'm not saying it's a personal attack, but that's how we take it, you're not afraid anymore. Because you understand, hey, there's rights and freedoms available for me that I can stand under. It doesn't necessarily mean that the first judge I walk across or the first person that I say, hey, you don't have any right to be bothering me, is going to recognize it or understand it. But nevertheless, the truth doesn't change, that it's there in law for me to operate, and I can stand under this. And they will have to take judicial notice. I was getting on the fact last week, I'll go to a caller before I go to the caller, I just want to say that when I was talking about sovereignty and saying that when you say that you are sovereign, it means that you must have an army. It doesn't directly say that in the word sovereign, but it says that sovereign means or describes a political power, an independent political power. And when you look at an independent political power, that independent political power must have an army to support itself or to defend itself. Because a political power that does not have an army to defend itself is actually not strong, can't really do much. Now I'm going to go to caller on 419-371-4688.
Hello there. This is Brian Lang, Live Truth Radio in your chat.
Hi, Mr. Lang. How are you?
Great. Interesting discussion that you're having here. And I shared one thing in there. I don't know if you had a chance to open it up. ByronWine.com files 1871 about the organic, the Organic Act of 1871.
Okay.
And it's fundamentally the Organic Act.
Yeah, well, when you mention organic, we know that it's going to start to deal with natural law and the like, so go ahead.
Well, see, that's what I like about your discussion. See, the common man, like myself, unlike yourself, that's, not very educated or anything like that, doesn't have numerous degrees or whatnot. I'm not saying you do or don't. I'm just saying that it seems as though you have more education than I or the common man out there. We don't know about this stuff, but we got to start learning about this stuff. This Organic Act of 1871 was brought up to me last year during another broadcast, and it basically breaks it down. It's a discussion. It's a informative, writing by somebody of what the Organic Act of 1871 did to you as a citizen within the Constitution, how it broke it down about the capital letters and all that.
Okay.
So if anybody gets a chance, if you want to get a chance to check it out, I already put it in chat, byronwine.com, files 1871 PDF. It's great stuff. But as Americans, as even Canadians or whomever, it is absolutely a form of slavery that we have been under, and we didn't even know it.
Oh, 100%.
This taxation without representation, where's our money going? We aren't being represented. You know, here in the United States, the money that we spend overseas, we're not allowing them to spend that money. We're not allowing them to spend all this money that they are claiming to spend. The $16 trillion of debt that we got, over $16 trillion. You know, but yet we're held accountable for it, not those that put us in debt.
Yep.
How contrary.
Isn't that the way a corporation works? The shareholders take the hit?
Exactly. Shareholders take the hit. But they keep on adding to it, and the whole populace does not do anything about it.
Well,
that's the problem.
You know what the scary thing about all this is with America? Because you're such a powerful nation. You're a beautiful nation and a powerful nation. Apart from the way they stripped you of your fundamental rights and freedoms, you're still a beautiful nation. But your nation is powerful, and the military might in your nation is very strong. And if America, God forbid, would ever collapse, can you imagine the military might that would be in operation without being governed by laws? You understand?
They're working towards it.
Yes, they are.
They are working towards it. I mean, I've had on my broadcast a few times. It's from another broadcast, Lieutenant Colonel McCoy down in North Carolina, and this was a broadcast that was done December 31st, where he was speaking of what he's being told by the higher-ups. You know, they all have their meetings and everything.
Yes.
Lieutenant Colonel McCoy of North Carolina Police saying that they were starting training January 7th, the week of January 7th, for what? Total gun confiscation. And how they're going to go about it? Total force, deadly force. And what Obama's doing is surrounding himself with the military people that will go ahead and go away from the posse comitatus and actually shoot upon their own people.
Yes. You're very well informed, sir. You're very well informed. And it's sad to see that that's going to happen, and the fact that if it plunges into a civil war, or if it plunges into martial law in America, Obama then becomes the head ruler with his 10, if you will say, underneath him. I think it's 10 individuals.
The council that he's created himself without any kind of jurisdiction.
Yes.
Without any kind. Yeah.
Exactly. It's sad.
Yeah, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sad, but if we are doing it here in America, the land of the free, home of the brave, then what do you think is being done all over the world when it should be much easier? You know, even in Canada.
No, I hear you.
Mexico, wherever. You know, if they are doing it right here in America with people sitting back and not doing anything and not upholding their own constitutional rights, then what do you think can be done across the world? You know?
It's, you know, when you bring up a subject like that, it's so deep, you know, what it's going to take to rectify that situation. It's sad to even think about it because, unfortunately, it would take a collapse. It would take, you know, this financial system to fall down so that those in power can be removed. Because as sad as it is, it's only a few that are holding us to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, the average man doesn't know about their rights and freedoms. Neither does the average police officer. You know, if you speak to the police officer and say, well, listen, here in Canada especially, well, we don't have to take recognition as a Canadian citizen, and we can stand under our rights and freedoms. It's actually in our charter. We're more blessed in that way, but they don't even know. They've never been taught. So it's a difficult situation that we as human beings have been placed in because they use the powers, the police and whatever structure they have, those few sitting on top to control the masses.
The individual that I just talked about, as far as the lieutenant colonel of North Carolina Police,
Okay.
he even brought up the market collapse. They're talking about it with the police. They are getting ready for this to happen. There's something that is around the corner that you and I and everybody else don't know what it's going to be, but they are going to implement it. They're going to start the fire. They're going to put the kindling in there and start it up.
If you definitely do an investigation and you look at what's been transpiring in the past 4 or 5 years, then yeah, you have to logically come to a conclusion that they have definitely prepared for something and something's going to happen. As to say when it will happen, no, your guess is as good as mine. You know, but I agree with you. When you look at everything that they've done and all the FEMA camps, everything that's been prepared, it's like definitely something's going to happen, for sure. When? Like I said, your guess is as good as mine. And can we prepare for it? You know, there's some that are trying.
Yeah, it's not just writing on the wall.
No.
You know?
Oh, no. No, when you actually do your own studying and research and see what's transpired, there's enough evidence there that you have to sit back and make a conclusion to say, yes, they are definitely preparing for something, and it's going to impact my life. Now, what it is, your guess is as good as mine. Some say alien invasions. Some say, you know, the return of the Messiah. Some say, I don't know, massive earthquakes all across the world because of the fault lines that are going on. We don't know, but yeah, it's set up to where they're going to grab control, like if you will say martially, and they're going to try and strip you of your rights and freedoms. But remember, through all this, my friend, they're only operating, and I know, you know, it's hard to say, but they're only operating upon you as that person. If before all this transpires, you let them know, listen, I'm not a corporate person. I'm not your citizen, and whatever laws you're invoking to control your citizens, they don't apply to me. My primary recognition, my primary standing or designation is that of a man or a woman, a human being. And as such, I have unalienable rights that you can't strip me of. I don't guarantee you that when they come with the guns, you know, that's going to help you 100%. But it is a recognition and an operation of law that's available for you to use. And these rights are recognized internationally. So if ever the international army is brought in, and again, I can't guarantee it, but you can claim your rights before them, and they are under international law to take recognition of what you are declaring. So even though your domestic country may not want to take recognition, the international community would have to take recognition. This is all operation of law I'm talking about. I'm not talking about in the heat of the fire, you know, when things are going on. I'm saying what they should do. I can't guarantee you what they will do. But just to have that backing there for you, that when they come and knock on your door and say, according to such and such order or according to such and such act, you have to perform such actions or give up such things. And you say, well, hang on a second. That's not my designation. That's not my recognition in law. I have unalienable rights, and those are going against my unalienable rights. And who do I speak to, or who do I have to be brought forward, or what judicial system do I have to go to have these rights respected? Now, they can tell you go to hell, excuse my language, you know, or it could possibly open up an avenue for you. But it doesn't hurt to have that foundation in operation for yourself.
But I got a question for you on that about the unalienable. I've been talking to somebody that's actually trying to claim his unalienable rights. Is it something that you can declare verbally with these people? But I've heard that it's only of those people that were here, of the families that were here during the time that they established the country. Those are the ones that are unalienable. That's what the Constitution has existed. What about the ones that came here afterwards? The immigrants that came in here to the United States afterwards. Does it still apply to them, or what? I'm hearing conflicting views on that.
Very good question. I can ask you a question. When you walk into court and you get in there before the judge, don't they bring out a book before you? And they ask you to place your hand on that book and swear by that book?
If you're witnessing in front of the court, yeah.
The court, and they're asking you to swear upon the Bible, right?
Hmm.
Okay. What's happened is that common law rights, and they stem from ecclesiastical law. That's what American courts claim. Okay, that's the operation that is there. Now, ecclesiastical law, that's biblical law. Old Testament times, right? Now, they drew common law rights out of ecclesiastical law and gave the power to the court system in America to recognize these rights and freedoms. So you, if you're an immigrant coming into America or whatever it may be, you have the right to claim common law rights and they will recognize it. But you can't claim religious rights. There's a difference. If you go and claim like a religious right, it's not the same as a common law right.
Interesting.
So your expression, your right to claim common law rights is recognized in the courts. And if you do a little trace back, just a little research, you're going to see that ecclesiastical law was turned over in America. It was turned over to the court systems. So that's why when you see in the Constitution of America, everybody has the right to practice their own religion, and your religion cannot be controlled or whatever. And then they're even trying to put Sharia law into existence in America. It's because all that is stemming from common law, and the court systems have the right to rule over that. And the Muslims, they're claiming that Sharia law is coming out of the Old Testament. Well, partly. It comes into the Quran, but the Quran, when you look at it, it's Old Testament. You understand? And it's Deuteronomy and such, the ecclesiastical laws, mixed in with their understanding. So, but still, it's all these laws have been placed into the powers of the court system, and they have obligation to recognize it. So even if you're a Sikh, I know this sounds crazy, but let's say even if you're like a Sikh or an Indian, and in your doctrines, in your religious teachings, it grants you certain freedoms apart from government control or whatever. You could actually go into the courts of law in America under that branch of operation of law and claim your rights and freedoms as a Sikh and say that this government law is impeding me religiously and you don't have any right to remove my religious freedom. But it wouldn't really be a religious freedom that they're granting you. They would grant you back your common law right as that man to express your liberty. Did I make it clear?
Yeah, you made it. The statement that you're talking about, do you have it written down somewhere so everybody can go by it?
Okay,
Not
I will.
Buy it, purchase it, but go by it and
read it. Yes,
read it, and yeah.
I'm going to put it up on my website this week on the United States of America page. I'm going to put up a section about how they transferred common law rights and ecclesiastical law into the judicial system of America.
Great.
So this way you
thanks
can go
for having me.
Oh, no problem.
Thanks
Take care
for
of
having
yourself.
me.
Take care
of
yourself.
God bless.
Bye-bye. On Friday, on this channel, Freedom Reigns, there's a 4-part series that's going on. The man's name is David, and he has his series going on Friday. So if you would like to come and listen to his series, it plays this Friday coming up. I'm not sure exactly what it's about. However, I was asked to ask you to come and watch his show. During the commercial break, I was thinking a little bit, again, about all that is transpiring against our rights and freedoms. And about the fact that that man told me, well, we're not aware of it. And the common man is not aware of it. And it's so true. The common man and woman is not aware of it. Why? Because they did it to us on purpose. They did this to us to hold us in ignorance. And really, can we blame the common man? If I return 6 or 7 years ago, even 8 years ago, I did not understand what was transpiring against me personally. I was just like one of the several millions of individuals who are out there that have no idea what it means to designate themselves a Canadian citizen or take citizenship recognition. Only after having been exposed to some of this truth, thanks to a man named Robert Menard, did I start to study and realize what was transpiring against me. And it took a little while to understand all this, and some effort to understand all this. But it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault that I didn't understand prior to this. Once I was exposed to it, and once I started to understand and begin to exercise my rights, and got opposition, for example, if I would have turned around and let go in the face of that opposition and walked away, then you could have said, yeah, I'm an ignorant man, and I'm not very good type of man. But not having known about my rights and freedoms, then becoming aware of them and standing for them, that is something that we need to be proud of. Because look at the amount of effort they put into deceiving us. Look at the amount of effort that they put in to stripping us of our rights and freedoms. If they're using so much energy and so much effort to remove our rights and freedoms from us, we shouldn't be so hard on those that are sitting in ignorance. And I wish, like I'm sure that man who called, I wish I could shake these people, a lot of them, and wake them up. Like I shared on this station before, I have friends who are intelligent, if you will. They're recognized their intelligence by diplomas, and they cannot grasp what has transpired. Along those lines, recently this week, I met with one of my friends, or he came to see me, and this is a man who is part of the Canadian Army, and I'm just going to leave it at that. He had a high rank in the Canadian Army, and I tried to explain to him what has been transpiring here in Canada concerning our rights and freedoms as human beings, and he could never understand it, and he was never willing to grasp it. And this has been many years that I've been sharing these with him, even to the point where we would leave our conversations in division. And recently, he opened up the conversation. And after having spoken to him and shared again with him certain rights and freedoms that we have, he understood. He comprehended. And after 5 years of this, he comprehended. So imagine. And now he goes back, and I can imagine all those times that he opposed and all those times that he argued with me. How if he has any type of conviction to say, wow, I fought and all that, and now I understand. But it wasn't really his fault. We're so indoctrinated by the government system. We're so indoctrinated by this type of thinking that it's bondage. It literally is bondage physically, because like I said, they take away from us through our taxes, through our energy. They damage us. So it's a physical bondage, but it's a mental bondage. It's definitely a mental bondage. Because just when you walk up to someone and say, hey, do you know what? When you designate yourself a citizen, you've stripped yourself of rights and freedoms that are available to you as a human being, as a man and woman. It's like, whoa, what do you mean? I've never heard any of this. And then you have to start to fight that fight in your mind. Well, what's going on? And then you got to come against the fact, well, this is conspiracy. Here in Canada, we're going through this right now, where, certain rights and freedoms that are being expressed, the government is trying to kick back by saying, oh, no, this is conspiracy, or this is only a political opinion. So they have to work through all that also, apart from learning what they've never been taught. Us who have been involved in this 8 or 10 years ago, never would we have seen, for example, a broadcast here in Canada on the national TV news. There was recently a broadcast on the national TV news that portrayed the free man movement, if you will, here in Canada as something that was evil, as something that was anti-government and something that was violent, which was totally not the case at all. But nevertheless, they did that. How do you think that affected individuals who have been exposed to this type of thinking? When they see, for example, this program being advertised or being brought forth to the public, it causes many, many questions and perhaps many, many doubts. And this is a type of attack that Canada is doing on human rights and freedoms. They're using their media, they're using their reporters to make garbage reports like was released through the National, so that those who would watch it will be discouraged from trying to find out what's going on and not come across their fundamental rights and freedoms and see the difference. But 10 years ago, as I said, they wouldn't have done that. It just goes to show me that the movement is getting bigger and that the powers that be are worried, because now they're giving note or taking notice of what's transpiring, and they feel the need to start a disinformation or, try and start division among that. We all need to take personal responsibility for our own rights and freedoms. As I say, no one can take that responsibility for us. If we don't exercise our rights and freedoms on our own and understand them, then they'll just stay by the wayside. And they'll be there for you to use all your life long, never having been activated, if you will, never having been taken out of your pocket and put into practice. And that's sad. And I'm banking, or they're banking on the fact that that's what will transpire. That you will go through your life chasing money, chasing material goods, as that corporate person, as that citizen, and never understanding that you didn't have to be subjected to this commercial system. Now, someone who's not subjected to this commercial system, what type of lifestyle would they be living? Well, one, for example, as I spoke about last week, we don't have an obligation. As much as the government hates when I say this, and as much as the government hates when I tell my fellow human beings of this right and freedom, I will tell them. And if you want to persecute me for telling them, go right ahead. You, as a human being, you do not have the obligation to have to work. You don't have to pursue after a living, all the more in Canada. You don't have to earn a living here in Canada. By earning a living, by pursuing after a living, that is the way that they're stealing from you. That is the way that they are taking from you. They're taxing from your energy, they're taxing from your work, and they're saying, you got to pay into the system. You have a fundamental right, and that fundamental right is you can choose to work. It is a choice that you have as a human being. No one can force you to work in the commercial system. Does that mean you don't have to work at all? No. Buddy, you have to get up and cook your food. If you grow a garden, you have to get out there and tend to your garden. There's all types of work that must be done to sustain your life. If you want to keep diseases off your body, you got to work and keep it clean. Go take a shower. There's all type of work. But what I'm talking about is the work that makes you gain or earn or pursue after a living. You don't have to express that fundamental right. And the government has tricked us. They laid hold of our security. They rendered us citizens. And they said, you go into the system now and you pursue after a living. When clearly the human being, the man and woman, they have the right to enjoy a living. And in enjoying that living, we as human beings here in Canada, and this is in operation in the States, we have the right to adequate housing. We have the right to food. We have the right to clothing. We have the right to a continued improvement of our living condition. And Canada, you are failing to provide that right to all of us. There are people who are deceived and must work and are working to supply needs for their family, and they hit hard times and they lose their job. And you provide for them through a social system called unemployment insurance or welfare system that is disgusting, that is a joke, that does not meet their needs, that places them in poverty. But yet, you turn over $160 million a day to international bankers. How can I respect you, government? How can I respect your authority in this country when you treat my fellow human beings the way you do? It's disgusting. This whole system is disgusting. It only cares about building itself and bringing international bankers and the monarch family money and monetary blessing. And it angers me when I see those in poverty in my city. And it angers me when I see those in poverty in other cities, especially here in Canada, when I know that you, lying there on the street, half naked and in destitute, have finances and a security that backs you up. And rather than support you and lift you up, they want to use the money for themselves. They want to use the money for a commercial purpose. You men and women who are leading this country, you lack conviction and you lack a heart. And the more you pass rules and regulations that damage us human beings, the more I'm disgusted at it. And you sit there with smiles before the public, and you sit there with smiles before the media, knowing that what you've done is placed us all into a commercial bondage to a system that damages us. Where, for example, you can be charged for a victimless crime, where you can drive your vehicle down the road and you hurt nobody, but you go 20 kilometers above the speed limit and they want to ding you for 100 and 150 bucks. Here we go. Take out of your bank account again, damage the human being again, any way that we can. So when you start to understand what's really transpiring against us and how the system is abusing us and using us, you'll probably feel the way I feel. That's for sure. Imagine all the resources and all the wealth that is available on this planet. What can be done? What could be done? What could we erect? What could we construct to support life? To make this system that we all can have a share of these resources. You see, there are some that will hear my show tonight, or maybe just this specific sentence that I said, and won't agree with me. They're hardcore till the end capitalists inside their body, and no, we're not all equal, and if you can get ahead, well then, hey, that's great for you, and too bad for the suckers who can't. That's not, in my opinion, a good spirit, a good motive. You see, that is what breaks unity. When you think that, well, yes, I believe that if someone works hard, okay, if someone puts their energy into something, they're entitled to what they reap. That I agree with you. But what I'm trying to say is that we all have equality on a basic level. And until that equality is met on a basic level, then we shouldn't worry about getting extra. You understand? We all have to come to a point or a foundation or a level that within a monetary system that's been constructed, there's equality there. And then after that equality, whatever you want to subsequently get, that's fine. If you want to go out and invest your time, invest your energy into securing more resources or more wealth for yourself, then great. I'm not one to prejudice you on those actions. But the point is that all these resources and everything that's on this planet belongs to all of us. And no one has the right to secure upon that and then turn around and say, I monopolize it now and you have to pay me for it. They only have that right because guess what? The governments gave them that right. Everyone, is up in arms about Monsanto and what they've done to the seeds and what they're going to do to the food. Yeah, I understand. But who gave them that right? It was the government body. The same government body that gave you certain rights and freedoms. They're the ones that did that. Someone's asking me right now if I will talk about the Human Rights Defender League in Canada. And I know that there is a league. It's kind of funny. A Human Rights Defender League in Canada. I mean, not funny, but just the word, when you're young growing up, you hear about the Justice League or the Justice from the cartoons. So the Human Rights Defender League in Canada is a group of individuals who are awesome, I have to say. The effort that they're putting in to supporting and defending human rights and freedoms in Canada is amazing. The work that they're doing is amazing. They released recently a 58-page documentation, a free report for those who would like to read. And wow, they really are doing good work. Apart from that, I mean, it's going to take in Canada, I really don't know what to tell you, what it's going to take. Because what I've witnessed this week, I saw two judges this week in Canada admit and grant and recognize human rights and freedoms. And then I saw two judges in Canada this week deny human rights and freedoms and say to the two individuals, oh, that's a political opinion. So that's where we're stuck right now in Canada. We're stuck in the fact that half of our justice system wants to recognize our rights and freedoms and half don't want to recognize our rights and freedoms. And I'm sure that's the exact same thing that's going to happen in America. You're going to run up in the justice systems where there's going to be some that agree and some that say, yes, you have the right to express this, and there are going to be some that don't. They're going to be like, we don't want you to exercise these rights, because if you exercise these rights, other people will start exercising these rights, and it's going to cost us money. All comes back down to the mighty dollar. All the time. People are asking, where can we read it? I will post it on my website, that Human Rights Defender League in Canada. I think the guy's name is Wally Dove. He's one of the ones who have actually wrote the document, and he quotes my website. He was somebody that I met when I held my first conference in Laval last year. I allowed them to come to my conference, and he really was able to absorb what is transpiring in Canada. I was very impressed by the fact that they were able to discern, based upon what I was sharing with them, and based upon the information that I gave to them, they were able to discern their rights and freedoms. Not 100%, but to a very good degree. And based upon that, they started taking actions. For example, this group here, they notified all of the justice systems all across Canada, claiming that our justice systems have failed in their responsibility, that they were under obligation to respect our human rights and freedoms, and they didn't. And they put all the lawyers and all the justice system basically on notice, which is a great operation. It's a great thing to do. So I think that, yeah, they're doing some good work here in Canada. Just going to check the chat. Bear with me. I'm working this. The solution to our problems, I believe, is already there. You see, there's a lot of people, and I made a video about this one time on YouTube, and please don't take this personally. I'm not upset. I'm not against anybody that's trying something for their rights and freedoms. If anything, I support you in it. Even if it's a failure, even if it won't succeed, just the fact that you would get out there and try something and get out there and fight for these rights, you deserve credit. You deserve, I don't know how to say that, but a pat on the back. Our rights and freedoms, the exercise or the operation of law that we can use, that we can stand under, is already there. It's already available for us to take. Now, the only thing is that we have to wake up to that fact, that that operation of law is available to us. Like in the beginning of this show, when I shared the Declaration of Independence and how they talk about natural law and the fact that you have, as a human being, unalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the fact that the government was supposed to be instituted to protect these rights for you. You see, these are very clear expressions of law. These are very clear operations of law, and you don't need to, how do you say that, create something different in order to have these rights recognized. You just have to draw out of them. You just have to draw from them what is already written and present to, if you will say, the justice system of America concerning them. Now, you go into many. I'm going to work this out in the next few weeks. If people keep listening to this station, I'm going to show you more and more how that all these enactments in America, all these statutes, that they don't really apply to you as a man and woman. And you're going to see the same thing that they've done to Canada, where they charge us for permits and they charge us for licenses, and they're controlling us through that legal person. The same operations of law, the same wording is present in the United States of America. And for you to overcome that, it just simply takes a claim for recognition under the natural laws of America, under, if you will say, those unalienable rights that are available for you. Now, if you want to find a list, if you will say, of what is recognized, now this is recognized in the American court systems also. You can go look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms. I'm going to post it right now. Copy, here we go. I'm going to post it on the chat. Most people are familiar with it. This is really not a legally binding document, okay? It's just in there. It's been posted. It's just an expression. It's just an expression of what men all across our planet believe that men and women, human beings, should have as fundamental rights. This is an expression of it. Now, when you go there and you read that, you're going to see what rights and freedoms are available to a human being. Now, these rights and freedoms that are contained in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms are transferred. They are transferred into American law, into American common law. And you will find these expressions transferred into American common law. Now, I'll give you one example. It here says that in Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it says everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country, directly or through freely chosen representative. Now, I contend that everyone means a human being, or a man and a woman. Now, a human being has the right to take part in the government. You don't have an obligation. As a human being, you can take part, you can take recognition as a citizen, as an American citizen, as a Canadian citizen. If you do take recognition or take part of that government, then we know in Canada and in America, they render you that citizen, that legal person, that subject, the servant of the political power or Her Majesty, depending on which country you are in. So everyone, that human being, has the right. That's a human right that you can express. That's a recognition, that's an operation of law you can stand under. You can partake of the government, but you have no obligation. When you do in America, the Constitution Act of America renders you that person, renders you that citizen. But if you choose not to partake of the government, then you stand under recognition as that man and woman, with all of your common law rights still there for you to exercise. So you will see the expression of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in operation in America and in Canada. Now, some of these articles of law in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, they come out of, if you will say, experience, like I was saying before, out of man's experience as they treat one another. Before I was speaking to you about the fact that you don't have an obligation to work. If you think that I'm just blowing hot air out of my mouth, I want to give to you a universally recognized human right. Now listen to this wording, okay? It here says everyone, a human being, a man or a woman, has the right to work, has the right to free choice of employment. Do you hear that? You have the right to work. You do not have the obligation. You have the right to free choice of employment. Can you honestly say right now that you have the right to work? Or can you say that you have the obligation to work? And therein is what I was trying to express before. As a human being, a man and woman, you don't have an obligation to work. There is a way through your security that you can enjoy a living. However, they want to render you that Canadian citizen, that American citizen, and they want to say that you are forced to pursue after a living, that you are forced to earn a living. Yet, here in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms, this same operation of law finds its expression in American law and in Canadian law, where it states that you have a right, but no obligation to work. Now, your next question will be, well, if I don't work, I wind up in poverty. Yes, as a person, as a citizen, you wind up in poverty. But as that man or woman, you have a security that is supposed to be there to meet your fundamental rights and freedoms. You have a security that's supposed to be there to support you as that human being, which they laid a hold of. And that security is a representation of your natural wealth, of the part of the natural wealth of America that belongs to you, or the part of the natural wealth of Canada that belongs to you. It's very clear. Now, when you read into the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the same expression of law comes forward, even more clear, because they use the wording, the different wording. A person, a citizen, has to pursue, has to earn a living. Yet a human being has the right to enjoy a living. And they don't tell you this. They've hidden this from you. And they only taught you that you have to pursue after a living. Now, what's the step? The step is to say, listen, there's an operation of law. There's a freedom available for me, an inalienable right that I'm not exercising right now. I want to exercise it. And what is the measure? what is the means that is available for me to exercise this? And if they come back and tell you there's no measure, sorry, there's no means, I can't do nothing for you, you go forward in a judicial claim. You go forward in a court of law, and you claim under this right. This is a universally human right that is recognized, and I'm claiming it, and they're denying me my remedy. And you go before them. Or you don't. You sit back, you stay part of the system, you stay a slave to the system, and what they do, the enactments they create, and the statutes and legislations that they create, you let it bind up and control your life. This is a battle. There's no sitting on the fence. When you wake up to the fact that you as a human being have been stripped of your fundamental rights and freedoms, have been rendered a subject, have been placed into a commercial system, you got to make a choice. You got to say, either I accept it, I'll stay in this system, or I will stand up and I will fight for rights and freedoms of the man and the woman. I will fight for the common law rights and freedoms that I'm entitled to and that my neighbor is entitled to, and he may not even know it. And as I said last week, when you stand up and do that, you're doing a duty. Man, if you could realize you're doing a duty on behalf of all men and women in this planet, all human beings on this planet. Because if we don't stand up and start claiming these rights and freedoms and start demanding that they respect them, pretty soon, you know what? They're going to be totally gone. Pretty soon it's going to be an antique. It's going to be something that, oh yeah, my forefathers used to have that, but you know, now if I try to exercise that, I'll face 25 years in prison. And you know what? If I don't have time tonight, but I could bring you out laws and freedoms that were in operation in 1920 and 1930, where the government couldn't touch a man for certain actions that he did, and they passed regulations and they passed statutes. And now, 1950, 1960, you do the same actions, and the government will have the right to seize upon you, and the government will have the right to put you in jail. That's what I mean by, if we don't stand up and don't protect these rights and freedoms, they'll eventually all just going to disappear. Last 3 minutes of the show. I enjoyed the show. For those who have tuned in today, please bear with me. I've only done this show 3 times, and I don't find that I'm not a very great radio host. My motive is to try and express and to try and show that there are these rights and freedoms that are available to you and to all of us to use, and that they've been hidden from us, and that we need to start, if you will, fighting back and standing up. And when I mean fighting back, I don't mean physically. I don't mean with guns and grenades and stuff. I mean with words and claiming our rights. I, through personal experience, can testify to the fact that it's very powerful. I'll leave it at that this week because I don't have time to go into this, but it's very powerful. When you begin, you know, there was an old expression, the pen is mightier than the sword, and I can truly say that I have had this experience in my life. When you begin to express your rights and freedoms, and when you begin to exercise and stand under them, and you do it backed up by a proper claim, built within the context of law that they recognize, wow, that's all I can say to that, is you will find that there is a total different existence. There is a total different amount of freedom that is available to you. And you will first actually be sad to see that, because when you start operating under them, you see that, wow, for many years I was in bondage. For many years I was being held in a certain way, and I didn't even have to be held in that way. So it's a tough journey. I sit here and I rant and I rave about our rights and freedoms, but to be honest, it's a tough journey. It's a tough journey emotionally, and it's a tough journey physically, because sometimes you have to fight. Sometimes you do have to go in the court of law and stand before the judges and demand that they respect what is essentially yours, which they don't have any right to remove from you. So I hope you enjoyed the show this week, and I will be back on air next week, same time, same channel, and hopefully I'll have some more information for you. I will, that's for sure. And go visit my website, eternallyaware.com, and there's a page, like I said, United States of America. There should be some updates this week, some good updates. Take care, and everybody have a good week. And once again, I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the show. and welcome to Freedom Reigns Blog Talk Radio with your host, Eternally Aware. As many are starting to know, I go by saying a human being with intrinsic rights. This week, it is my intention to bring forth and to show forth human rights and fundamental freedoms that are in operation in America. I would like my viewers, my listeners, to follow along with me. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go on into the chat room, and there you're going to see two links that have been posted from the host, Freedom Reigns. It's www.uhistory.org and www.taxfreedom.com. If you'll bring up those documentations, if you bring up those websites, that from those links, you can follow along for what I'm about to share with you guys. I'm not a lawyer. As I stated before, I'm simply a human being who has studied the laws and studied what is in operation in Canada, in America, and in other countries such as UK and Great Britain to understand my own rights and freedoms and to understand how to operate my rights and freedoms. So with that said, I would like to go on. On July 4th, 1776, there was a declaration that was made in the land of America, in the Congress of the Americas. Most of you will be familiar, hopefully, with the document that's called the Declaration of Independence. That is the declaration that was signed. Now, it's really interesting when you get into this documentation and you start to read it. You start to see the grievances that these people had, these grievances that these men had concerning Great Britain and concerning the King of Great Britain, the things that they were claiming. And we don't feel that you have the right to do that. We don't give you our consent to do that. And this is one of the reasons why we want to break away from you. Isn't it funny today how we can be over 200 years into the future and this same corruption that caused these men to want to run away from Great Britain, to want to not associate to that power of that government? One of that reason was because of the fact that they imposed taxes, and here we are. This same government now is doing the exact same thing to its citizens. Here in 2012, using statutes and regulations to impose laws against them. So as one individual, as one human being, I guess you could walk into the Declaration of Independence and then say those same laws, those same reasons that justified these men to remove themselves from that political power of Great Britain, those reasons such as that all men are created equal, that we have certain unalienable rights, that they cannot be removed from us. You can claim these same rights. You can stand under these same liberties to excuse yourself as one human being from the instituted governments that are in operation right now. Now, if you go follow me into the Constitution of the United States, just going to go through it a little bit quickly here. It starts like this. Now that you're aware of what the word people or the designation of people actually means, it says, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of the liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America." Now, this Constitution of the United States of America, it applies fundamental rights that are in operation. It states that they are unalienable here in America, and that among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, these are natural rights. These are human rights and freedoms that are available for you to stand on. And the object that this Declaration of Independence is declaring, the object of a government, is that a government is there to secure these rights. Notice that it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So the point being for the institution of governments was to be there to secure the rights and freedoms that were available for men and women, human beings. Not so much to create a government that would create commercial institutions and then would use their powers to help commercial institutions. These men, in July 1776, when they sought to take their freedom from Great Britain, they invoked natural law, they invoked common law, and they invoked equality of all men as their foundation, as their right to separate from the dominion of Great Britain. And they were very aware of the fact that there is such a thing back then and even now of common law, of fundamental rights, unalienable rights that belong to a human being that cannot be taken away, that cannot be removed from that human being. Now, a little bit more when you read into this Declaration of Independence, you see that one of the grievances that they had here, and one of the reasons that they wanted to break away from Great Britain and use their natural rights to break away from Great Britain, they said, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. So these men, back in 1776, they had a grievance against Great Britain, the King of Great Britain, and they said that you are imposing taxes upon us. Dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. That sentence is very powerful. That sentence brings forth the operation of, if you will say, common law rights or human rights and fundamental freedoms, because it's declaring here that the power that they're using is separate, and this power is an equal station or an equal designation to which the laws of nature and of nature's gods entitle them. So they're bringing forth the fact that there is a designation, there is a way to stand or be recognized that is an equal designation, an equal statute, if you will, stature, if you will. And it goes on to subsequently say, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Now I'm going to read on just a little bit more. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, now notice that they didn't say all people, they didn't say all persons. The subject that they brought forward here was all men. It says that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now we're going to stop there. First of all, we see that there is such a thing as an equal station, an equal recognition in America. And that equal recognition falls under the laws of nature, or natures of God, if you will, human rights, fundamental freedoms that a man is entitled to. And part of these that this king was doing to them. I start reading this declaration here. It says, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Now I'm going to stop there. Now notice, first of all, they brought up two subjects. They brought up here human events, and they brought up people. Now when you look into legal dictionaries, for example, black laws, it states that people, the definition means the citizens of a state. And when you study and look into what the definition of citizen means, it talks about the fact that a citizen is a person who owes their allegiance or who owes their oath to the country, to the political power. So when you refer to yourself as a people, you are saying that you are a citizen who is subjected to the political power that is ruling in America. Now, in Ballantyne's law, it's another law dictionary. It gives you a little bit of a better description of what a people is. It says a people means the state, the nation, or any consolidated political body. So the people means the state, the nation, or any consolidated political body. So it's very clear that when you refer to people, you're talking about a consolidated political body. It goes on further to say the subjects or inhabitants of a nation. That is what a people refers to. So when you refer to yourself as people or as a citizen, you are declaring that you are part of a political body that is in operation within the United States of America. So here, when you start to read the Declaration of Independence, it says, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people, you know what they're talking about, what they are referring to now. They're already referring to subjects or citizens that have been part of a government body, a ruling body. Now, listen to the wording.